These are four brothers, here to provide, guide, and share the heart-centered light from within, utilizing experience and perspective on masculinity as a whole. They now invite you to come on this epic journey to grow with them and watch the magic happen. The movement within.
Hey guys, we just wanted to bring you into our very first episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the heart. We're just going to have a discussion between us four, share some of our experiences and what we've been through. To get started, I guess the big question is, what is an open heart versus a closed heart to you guys?
To me, it feels like I'm very analytical, very logical. So for me, like my heart is like an organ. You know, I don't see it as like anything else. But the only other thing I could think of is tying your heart to sports is like put your heart into it, like having passion for it or having even compassion, you know, for something that you love. That's what I tie it to. That's what it means to me. I mean,
What about outside of sports?
outside of sports, it's just an organ for me. And when people say open heart, I'm like, you mean like an open mind? That's what I think every single time. Like I just think your heart is just an organ. You know, that's the easiest way I could put it, for me at least.
Well, you'll start to feel it.
Yeah, because to Josh's point, right? I think for me, the biggest thing is I always see your heart, and this is a lot of what society does to us, is creates this almost like this bird cage that's over your heart. And what that does is it not allows you to really just show who you truly are, because you'll be acting out of fear, or you'll be acting out of disappointment, or whatever may come with that, right? So a big part of my journey, and I feel when it comes and ties into masculinity, is us really allowing us to open up that heart space and really show who we truly are, right? To be vulnerable, to share our feelings, to not be afraid to give another guy a hug or anybody a hug in that sense. It could be a stranger. But a closed heart to me is somebody that only sees things one way. Like it's very tunnel vision to somebody, right? Where they only see the one outcome instead of seeing the millions of outcomes that can come from any type of situation, right? You have somebody coming to you trying to talk shit on you or whatever it is, you have two ways to react, with a closed heart or with an open heart, right? So to me, a lot of our life's work is really just opening that heart and looking from within and really gathering that feeling that someday, Chris, you will be able to feel. And like I told you on the drive over here, that it's going to be such a beautiful thing when you are able to feel that, and you're going to know that organ does so much more than just pump blood to your living body every single day. You know?
I hope it, you know, that's my journey, you know?
Right? He's going.
Discovering it, super difficult, but I'm excited.
Well, this is what I love about it. This is why we're doing this, to open up people's hearts, get them where they need to be. An open heart to me is a person that has no shame about who they are. They treat everybody with compassion, with positiveness. They don't judge people. They work from a heart-centered place, which is always happy. It's always good. It's somewhere where you can do something so heart-centered and it's not gonna hurt anybody and it's not gonna hurt yourself. You know, that's the beautiful thing about having an open heart, is it gives you more experience and new experiences, and the more you look at those experiences in a heart-centered way, you grow from it and people grow from it. It's contagious. That's what's so lovely about it, and you know, that's what's so beautiful about having an open heart. You know, the bad thing about having a closed heart is pretty much a lot of the way how society looks at it. When I look at a heart-centered person, they do their love through themselves to other people, to other services, to other companies, to whatever they want. But a closed-hearted person, they go through their brain. They strive on success maybe in business and don't mind who they step over to get there. They judge people. They are very closed off to new ideas or higher ideas. A closed-hearted person is a person that is not going to grow in this life. They're going to be stuck in that rut until they can get out of it. I think all of us can agree with that, which is awesome when you go the right way, but You know, if you want your life to stay the same,
To that point, right? Like if you, like I've been talking about this a lot with a lot of people, right? Like you always have the ability to be complacent or to be comfortable or whatever that is,
Yeah.
right? But the funny way is, and I don't feel like anybody can really necessarily deny it unless they're really fighting it, is life will always throw those nuggets at you, right? Even if you're complacent, you're so comfortable and you're like, you know what, I'm good. I have, you know, and I use this analogy because a lot of it is used, especially in our region in Salt Lake, where I go to work, or I wake up, I go to work, I pay the bills, I go home to a family, and I just repeat, and that's my life, and that's all it'll ever be. And don't get me wrong, those are beautiful, wonderful things, right? Like that's something that I truly even want later in life as well. But there's so much more out there on top of what you're already doing, right? You're putting a limitation or a ceiling to where you are, and that's where your closed heart or your ego comes in and really wants to challenge you to be like, no, you're good, you don't got to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Where your open heart, which is also part of the flow of life, is telling you, no, like keep going, push a little harder, challenge yourself a little bit more, do that project that you always wanted to do, or try that thought you always wanted to, or you know, follow through with that thought you always had. But you know, just a small nugget.
That's kind of what I believe in, is having an open heart is kind of being fearless in a way. When you're open to things, anything that comes your way, you're more willing to grab it or try it out. When you're closed, everything's negative. You try to put up obstacles in your way to not go that way, or I mean, it's just constantly just putting up barriers your whole life. But you just really just got to go out there. I remember when I first started doing what I do in sales, I used to psych myself out like for 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the car before I even got out and did door to door. But you just gotta push yourself, listen to motivational stuff, hang out with good people, and keep it going.
Dude, I think one thing we should talk about too, because this will tie in later in later episodes, is Josh talked about barriers, right? So one example that I always love to bring up is romantic relationships, right? How many people in this world that you've communicated with, or even met, or even are with nowadays, right? They tell you, oh, you know, I don't quite trust you yet, or I don't quite trust the situation yet. And what it really is they have been burned in the past. So what they do is they close off, they create that barrier, they start building that brick wall or whatever, steel wall, whatever you want to call it, and they just continue to build it, and they almost are surprised at the fact that you as a person, when you're coming off very authentic and genuine, can help, you know, take those walls down with them. But once you start taking down 2 walls, then they're like, damn, Johnny, like I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. So I'm gonna start building my walls back up again, you know. And then you teach them that it's okay to bring it back down. It's okay to just be who you are and just share what it is. And the best part about it too, and especially what I do in my line of work, for example, is I help people see if they don't want to share with me, they don't have to share with me, right? That's completely their choice, coming from an open heart space, right? But I think we should definitely start talking a little bit about romantic relationships and what that means to us in each different way, right? Because so many times we've had that heartbreak and we're like, shit, I'm just gonna close up, close down. I'm not gonna open up my heart ever again because I don't ever want to be hurt again.
Yeah.
Right? When in reality, like your heart is yearning for that connection with another.
Yeah.
Right? 2 wholehearted people coming together, wholesome people coming together and sharing and choosing to be in this life together. That's how I see it. Sharing that entity, right? That's why I even think like marriage certificates, right? And this is nothing against marriage, but marriage certificates, right? I feel like that just puts an expectation on things, right? Just because I have this certificate, then I have to act a certain way or be a certain person, right? When that's just a piece of paper, you know? I don't know what you guys' take is on this, but like, I feel like there's a lot of times where I can tie a lot of life experience back to a romantic relationship and the walls and cages and things that are built, and then breaking them down slowly, and then, you know, whatever comes of that.
I totally believe that. A lot of people don't know when they sign the certificate. I think people like feel it's ownership in a way, that now they kind of own that person, or that person kind of has to report back to them, which I don't believe in at all. I think if you're with somebody, it's a freedom thing. Like, they know that you're free, she's free, everybody's free.
Yeah.
No cages.
Yeah. Right? Because wouldn't we all want to be with somebody where, I mean, I don't know if you guys heard this before, but maybe Chris, maybe you have, I don't know. But what I'm talking about is where you're like, Yeah, I mean, we've all had that, right? We've all had a homeboy or a friend or whatever where they're in a relationship, and next thing you know, you don't hear from them for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that? Most of the time it's because you're putting all your energy into that other person, but at the same time, it gets to a point where you were almost fearful or scared in some sense, whether you want to believe it or not, man, out there, right? That if you were to go hang out with your boys, or if you were to go do this or that or the other, that you're going to get in trouble, right? What would it be like if you could be yourself 100% of the time?
Sometimes
She
you
can
do.
as well.
Sometimes you do, and sometimes that's a role that plays into certain relationships that restrict people, and it tears people apart. People get complacent in putting all their love and their happiness and all this into this other person, and when they're gone, oh my gosh, I have nothing anymore.
Well, then they hold
I mean,
grudges.
that's why you need to have a real strong heart when you get in a relationship with somebody that has another strong heart. You guys lift each other up when you're down. You know, you could be at 80 when she's at a 20, and then vice versa. But you guys work together. You know, there's no expectation there besides the intent to love each other and grow a life.
That's what it's all about.
Chris, what you got on relationships, bro?
They're difficult, but at the same time, they don't have to be difficult. I think you make them difficult. You know, I think that's where I'm at. Like, in order to love somebody else, you have to love yourself first. At the moment, I don't love myself, but that's where I'm at. That's my journey right now. It all starts with you. It's difficult for me right now, right? Because I'm discovering who I am just by trying new things, doing new things. Like this whole movement, you know, this is new, and I'm putting myself out there. But yeah, it's just a journey, and I think it just starts with you.
I think we should expand on this a little bit more, right? Because again, this is coming from somebody that's coming from a very logical place, right? Again, the heart is an organ. It pumps blood, helps you stay alive every day, right? So coming from a logical place, now we're talking about a romantic relationship, right? How do those two play a part in your life?
They kind of don't. Like, they're two separate things for me. That's why I said when I think of people saying open heart, I'm like, do you mean open mind? Because I don't understand it. I don't get it. You know, but like all the definitions that you guys said, like okay, like I feel like I have some of that, but like I'm not in it all the way, you know. And
Well, what's stopping you?
me, you know, I have no idea. Like I think about it when I'm at work. I think about when I drive home. This is crazy story. Okay? I never told anybody this. I've only told Shelly and Sebastian, my friend. My friend Sebastian told me, he's like, dude, when you go home, just tell yourself that you love yourself. Like just repeat it over and over. And I was like, all right. So I was on the freeway, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna start saying it. I was like, Chris, I love you. Chris, I love you. And I started saying it in different ways. I was like, I love you. I love you. I love you. And then I was like, I feel like I'm not saying it like I mean it, right? So I was just like, Chris, I love you. And then for some reason I responded, why? And I was like, I don't know why. And I was like, dude, it's okay, just love yourself. I literally imagined myself like interviewing myself, like, this is me who I am right now, and on the other side was like the person that I'm supposed to be, that I want to be. And for some reason I had glasses. The other side of me had glasses.
That's awesome.
And so I was like interviewing myself, like, Chris, it's okay, just chill. And then I made it super suspenseful, and I was like, I love you. And I was like, all right, I don't like that. I don't like that. And I just literally stopped. It made me uncomfortable in the car. And I was like, okay, I'm done saying it. Like, that's it.
So thanks for sharing, because I
thank
know John's
you.
got something to say on this, but
Yeah.
like to this point, right? Is like this is I wanted him to share this, and I have never heard that story. So just so you know, Chris has never told anybody that he loves himself. So for us to hear that he's telling himself that he loves himself, like that's a huge hurdle, right?
Awesome.
But you just saw literally not only in his demeanor, right? You saw how he's a little shaky and moving around, but you could hear in that story alone exactly what an open heart compared to a closed heart is, right? And hopefully Chris saw that as too and recognized that in himself, where he was completely open-hearted by sharing this with the world. But then,
Getting vulnerable.
But then some of that fear started to come in, and then he's like, you know,
Yeah,
started doubting it. Started doubting it. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all me, you know. Like I feel comfortable telling you guys, like, I'm okay with wearing whatever I can. I'm not afraid, but like, I think it's just like an expectation maybe of myself. Maybe. I mean, I have no idea.
I think everybody
You know?
has like an expectation of themselves, or kind of what you're supposed to look like, kind of an image of what you're supposed to look like to other people.
Why?
I don't know. I just think, I don't really know why, but it's pretty hard. I mean, it's hard to get over that expectation that you think people are supposed to have of you. Like,
See, yeah, this
Sounds like an ego.
yeah,
yeah, ego, yeah.
It's the exact opposite of heart.
Yep.
It's a mask, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's
that's what I
definitely a
mean. Like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out with these groups of friends, so I have to put this mask on, or I'm gonna go to work, and my expectation is that I'm always this, and this, so I need to dress the part, or whatever it is, right? When you're coming from an open heart space, in my opinion, you don't worry about any of that. You can wear any clothes you want to wear, you can be whoever you want to be, you can act however you want to be, and it doesn't matter who says what about you, or thinks about you, or judges you, or anything, and you're comfortable with it, you're fine with it, and you still, on a deeper level, no matter what they're saying or doing or looking at you or whatever, you still love them back in return. You still love them even if they're judging you and all these things, that you can still be like, okay, I understand that that person is judging me from whatever space that they're in. They're probably going through something in their life right now, but I still love them, and even if they're talking shit or whatever, I'm still gonna be here for them.
That's
right?
just them.
Right. It's breaking down your walls. You know, breaking down your walls is a huge thing because you have to break down your walls to get to this.
Yeah.
Everybody does, and it's not going to ever really stop. We're always going to be breaking down those walls, whether they're big or small, you know. With Chris's story back to when he was driving and he was asking himself, you know, there's so much going on in that story that I get, and it's a beautiful thing when you break down a little bit of a wall. Even if you break a piece out of that wall and kind of poke your head onto the other side, you see a little bit of light. You see that all of a sudden something becomes possible that wasn't possible to you before, and that thing's huge. Sometimes that's bigger than actually leaping into it, is actually just seeing that speck of light that comes through into the dark. Like, it's a huge thing, and that's what all of us want to share with you. It's just so beautiful when you can go in from the heart and share it with people, especially with these guys. You know, I'm super, super excited to be doing this with these guys and talking about the heart. You know, I really want to ask these guys what the heart means in masculinity.
The heart and masculinity means to me is, I don't think masculinity matters much once you start feeling your heart. Because I think masculinity is just a big show of ego. Like, you don't need to have all that masculinity. You can just be a normal good guy, not flexing all the time, just not always puffing your chest out high. I mean, you don't have to always be dressed in the nicest clothes. You don't have to, it's all just kind of you. You just gotta be you, you know? That's
Yeah,
right.
no, I love that, Josh, because like to me, God, yeah, I've been searching for what I really believe this is for a long time, right? So to me, it's literally so many things, and I'm a very visual person, and I go back to a lot of experiences I've had, right? So say I'm at a concert, for example, and I see two guys beefing over there, and they're just literally flexing their muscles or trying to see who's bigger or badder or whatever. When in reality, in my eyes, the bigger, badder person, or the guy that is really just loving himself and loving the entire situation, is able to get peace out of that and just walk away, and that takes more balls to me than anything else, right? Being vulnerable. I know a lot of guys, they don't want to necessarily share their feelings, but I know plenty of guys in my life as well that, I mean, this is outside of these three guys here, but they also share some type of feeling in some type of way. They don't realize it, but if you bring it to their attention, then that's where they get all like weirded out about it, right? So it comes so natural in that, but I also think as well, like there's definitely science to it. We talked about heart being an organ, right? And I know for a fact that the right side of your brain is definitely masculine, the left side of your brain is 100% feminine, and there's that equal balance that you're going to have throughout your entire life, right? Like sensitivity, for example. So me, I'm very highly sensitive. I can feel many different people's energies and flows and where they're at in their life and everything that's coming with that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the guy that's going to go and cry or do all these things, which that's not a bad thing either. Like there's many times where I've caught myself in the room or wherever I am and I've been crying and just shedding those tears, because to me that's very healing, and that's okay for me as a man to do that. But I also see there's the other side of that, right? Where, for example, and this is just my take on it, where like if my kid's gonna get bullied at school, for example, right? You stand up to that bully, right? You stand up for yourself. You stand up for what you feel is right. You speak up when you're supposed to speak up, and when you feel you're supposed to speak up, and you do it in the right way to get across the right message that you feel is right in that moment, right? That doesn't mean that you need to fight anybody. It doesn't mean you need to belittle or put anybody down or anything like that. So I mean, I can go on for days, but I mean, it's, you know, I like to talk on these topics. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through a lot here, and all these topics I'm sure we're going to end up coming back to sooner or later and getting more detailed into it. The heart with masculinity, wow. Right now when I see that, I see a big broken something there, because what society thinks men should be or shouldn't be is a big crock of crap to me, to be honest. When I look at masculinity, I look at it in more of an energy type of way, you know, and I think being masculine just doesn't mean like you're gonna go out and be a bully, or you gotta be in a big truck, or you gotta have things, or you gotta be taking care of a family or a wife or this or that or the other. No, like that doesn't mean anything, you know. Some of the biggest men or masculine men that I've met, you know, they could be bums doing something for somebody else when they have nothing, because they can. When a guy gets a chance to do something and do it right and use masculinity in the right way, it is so powerful, especially if it's conjoined with a female energy. The thing is powerful, and we've gotten so screwed up on how all this works and how all this works together. It's not separate, it's put here together to be companions as one. But you gotta find yourself first. You gotta be in the heart before you can share that. It's just crazy how society looks at it, because I have a lot of feminine traits about me. Sometimes I cry, so I get very in touch with my feelings very quick.
You know, typically like the heart is associated with love, so that's kind of what I would associate it with. Okay, so for me, there is like one type of love. That's where I get confused. Like, how can there be different types of love? But we'll get into that later. But like, so I imagine like this love, this as like being like unisex, and you know, and then it like creates everything, and then that's when we like, now that we all have our own brains, like everyone here in this world, like we start to create things, and that's why I think we created like masculinity and femininity. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
right. That's right.
Sounded good.
Always learn something here. And so I think that's where we just started creating that, you know, and it's like made up basically, right? And so that's why everyone's like, be a man. It's like, what does that mean? You know, that's like kind of why we're making this video.
This movement.
And yeah, so I think it's kind of made up for me. It's kind of, I don't know, that's what I think.
I like how we all kind of have different points and views in all this, and honestly, none of us are wrong, but none of us are really right. You know, it's really about opinion and what you feel and what comes to you and what you learn from it.
Okay, so what do we do for others with this, right? So I think that's something that we should definitely bring up is when we talk about an open heart, we can even talk to the opposite of what a closed heart does for others as well, right? But what are we doing? What do we do for others when our heart is open?
How do you use your open heart towards others? How do you share it?
I think it's, well, number one, to have an open heart, I think is like, you have to be willing to have an open heart. That's I think number one. Like, you have to be willing to like be the best version you can be. I guess was what people say. Be willing to go and try new things and venture into like deeper, darker waters. You know, because you don't know what's out there. Like, that's why I hang out with really awesome, cool, bearded like people. You know what I mean? So number one, like number one for me is like, you have to be willing to have an open heart, you know, and that's why I'm here, right? Like, so like all the things that they were saying earlier, like it's like I think I have some of those things, you know, but that's why I'm here. I want to learn. I want to be the best version that I can be, so I can help somebody else in their journey and help bring them up as well, you know, because we all need a little help. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're my dad, you're my mom, you're my brother, if you're my son, if you're my cousin twice removed, like we all need help in a way. And so in order to help somebody else, you have to help yourself.
Well, first off, when you share your heart, it has to come from somewhat of an open space. I think you don't necessarily have to have a totally open heart to share it. I think a lot of people share it without knowing, and they just think it is maybe just some kindness or etiquette. It's love on a certain type of level. How I think the best way to share your heart and your love with somebody else is just to be open, to be understandable with somebody, to be open-hearted with somebody, to see where they're coming from and try and help the best you can. You know, do whatever you can. I mean, a certain smile, a hug, that a boy, or a thumbs up, just to anybody on the street can give somebody, literally could take them away from doing something later on that they didn't want to do. I mean, it's so powerful and so beautiful that a lot of people just want to be recognized and understood. And I think just sharing, whether it's charity, whether it's doing groups like this, whether it's with your spouse or your kids, you know, like I think that's a huge thing, is teaching your kids what true love is and what self-love is about and what community is about, you know, right? If just one person's doing this, it's not going to end up impacting anything. But when you get a community and you can impact that on a good, loving, sharing community way, it does powerful things. It really does, and it does beautiful things, and you just keep on going, and it has this ambience and just abundance that just makes you feel alive and makes you feel at home on a place that a lot of the times we don't feel at home. You know, getting it back into that heart and sharing it is huge, and it gets you back into a spot where you can start growing and feeling at home.
What about you, Josh? What you got?
What I feel like is sharing my heart with others is kind of making sure they're okay. I mean, I always kind of, maybe I do it a little bit too much, but I usually check up on people, or I always try to inspire people in some way. I mean, because I'm inspired that day or something, so I kind of just want to share that with somebody else and hope to God that they do something awesome that day. But I mean, really, I think sharing your heart is just being, like what Chris I think said, is just being the best version of you. Because when people see the best version of you, I think it kind of rubs off on them wanting to be the best version of themselves. And I've actually heard it from a couple of like people I never even thought would be even following me, like looking at me or anything. They've told me that they're like on some path because I've changed, and it's kind of an awesome feeling to hear that. And I think that's what the point of sharing your heart is, and it's just sharing yourself.
I think obviously very great, wonderful things being said here, and I can definitely resonate, and that's where I talk about synchronicity in many different levels, right? Because to me, sharing my heart with others, or anybody sharing their heart with others, definitely comes from a very positive perspective, positive intent to be exact, right? And this is where a lot of people will challenge this, but when you're leading with positive intent and you are literally doing what is best for yourself, right? Back to what all three of these guys are talking about, then that's where everything else falls into place, right? We all have our own unique purposes. We all signed up specifically to accomplish specific tasks in this lifetime, and why not share our uniqueness with every single person that we interact with and come into contact with, or may not even come into contact with, right? Energy flows wherever it wants to go, and you have a lot of control in that. So as long as you're leading with that positive intent, you know it's coming from a good place, and it's not a self-serving where I need to be better than this other person, I need to be on top, or get this position before them, or whatever that is. Then that's where it'll always fall into place, right? So starting with yourself and being who you truly are is where you're going to really make that impact on any type of level. And the funny thing is we were driving up here today, and this is a dream that I had probably about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, where I literally envisioned me, and I didn't know at the time, right? So I'm really just like capturing all of this at once. But I was here literally outside so we're the Salt Lake City Library, in case we didn't mention that already. But we were outside already, and literally we were just out there just sharing love with so many people and just being who we are. It may be a hug, it may be a handshake, it may be a hi, it may be a smile, whatever that may be. And I was telling Chris about this in the car, and I was like, I'm having deja vu right now, because like I feel it coming through, and how we can make that positive impact, right? Like literally, like one thing about me is me just smiling or saying hi to somebody can literally impact their day and make it for the better. And that's not me building myself up for all those people that want to say, oh, he's into himself and he's all this and that. That's just your ego talking to yourself, talking to you right now. What it is me really I really found the impact, and I've got a lot of feedback from people in my line of work where they say, Derek, I really love when you come and just say hi to me and just smile at me, right? And so like it's crazy to think that just a smile can do that. I know Chris talked a little bit about children, right? Like I have 2 boys, and literally sharing it with them, teaching them the right way, right? One thing that I do with my oldest son that is able to comprehend what conversation we're having is I literally go through a nightly set of affirmations, right? Where he will tell himself that he loves himself, that he is confident, that he'll care for others, that he won't judge anybody, that he'll help or have a helping hand with anybody that is in need of it. And then we do a small prayer and then we go to bed, right? And the reason for that is because think of the impact that can be done at a 4-year-old's age instead of a 31-year-old's age, right? When I'm really learning it. But I figure, again, part of my path and part of my masculinity and part of me being a father is really coming into that space and teaching him the way so that when it comes to that point and letting him have free will of choice, right? I think that's a big portion of it too. But I'm always going to support him in that. So hopefully you guys liked what you were able to hear today, but hopefully it was very useful. If you guys do like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. More to come. If you have any topics that you want to hear specifically, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to go ahead and look into that and see what conversation we can get started on that, right? This isn't only necessarily for us, it's also for you and for the entire world. So please let us know if you liked it, disliked it, what feedback you can provide us, and it's okay to be very real and honest and let us know what you think. But thank you for spending the time, you guys, and I hope you all have a good night.
And follow us on Instagram and our Facebook page. The link is in the description below.
Love y'all.